Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Next Gen Planners podcast. My name is Amelia Hamilton, and I am the head of community here at Next Gen Planners. And in today's show, I am joined by Nitika Vyas, co-founder of Aila. Is it Aila or
Aila,
Aila Money?
Aila
Aila
Money.
Money. There we go. Co-founder of Aila Money. Welcome. Thank you for being on the
Thank
show.
you. Thank you for having me. I'm very
It's
excited
a
about
pleasure.
this.
Yeah. Well, it's a pleasure to have you here. So, what we like to do in the Next Gen Planners podcast is to start things off and give people an idea of what you do and what your life involves. Is to just ask the question, what does a day in the life look like for you? So,
Sure.
and
Um,
any day today, last week, just any day in the
any
life.
day. So, what my standard Monday to Thursday looks like is if I'm good, I manage to get to get to the gym before going to work. Sometimes not so much, especially at the moment and the darker days. And then during the day, I have a finance job. I'm the COO of a brokerage team, so I'm there for as much of the day as needed. And then it's either then socializing in the evening or at the moment with Isla, doing a lot of Isla work in the evening. So whether that's calls, webinars, or some of the additional work we're doing to try and bring kind of our beta test up and running.
So busy, I'd say.
Busy.
It's probably
Yeah, just a
yeah,
little bit.
sounds full on, very full on, but exciting. And there's so
Yeah.
much, exciting stuff that's happening with you at the moment. So talking about Isla, then, could you just share the story behind why you started the company and yeah, well, actually, I was going to ask another question, but let's start
Sure.
there.
Okay.
And why did you decide to launch this?
So I'm launching this with my co-founder Elizabeth, or Liz as I will call her. So Liz and I have been friends since university, and we've both been in different parts of finance. So I'll give you a bit of a background of me and then her. So I did maths at uni, and then very much straight into the grad program at an investment bank, and then from there went into hedge fund world. And after a while, I got a bit of an itch where all I was doing was making rich people richer. And so I wanted to have an impact on the world. So I started doing a counselling course, where I was then volunteering on helplines as well on the side. And actually, during that time, I actually came to realise one, there was a lot of things affecting people's mental health, especially before and after COVID, but after COVID especially, finances became a really big thing that people were struggling with. Um, Liz has also then had a very similar route in terms of after university, she went into finance and then consulting. And then again, she moved out of that space into a more philanthropic space, working with big trusts as well as then doing work with the UN. One of those things we were both really passionate about is making an impact. And finance became one of those things that, we spoke about with each other a lot. And we came to realize actually a lot of our friends came to us being like, what should I be doing about this? And the more we spoke about it, we realized actually it wasn't just a problem that our friends had. This was a wider problem that needed to be solved. We looked at the stats, and 4 out of 5 people in the UK don't get advice, or and this is worse for females. And so we wanted to set about doing something about this and making a change, which didn't just involve the traditional advisors, which a lot of our friends didn't feel comfortable going to.
Yeah, amazing. I mean, it's an incredible journey to where you are now. So, do you want to kind of give an overview of what Isla is? What does it
Yes.
involve? Who can it help? What's it about?
Yep. So what we'd like to do with Isla Money is empower people by actually thinking about your life goals. Everyone's saying, look after your finance, look after your finance. But actually, why are we doing this? Everything comes down to what is our life goals. And actually, unfortunately, for most of our life goals, we're going to need money. And what is the money that translates into this? So we would like to have a space where an app which you can see what your life goals are, what the cost of your life goals are, and how you can go about achieving it. Now, that's using a digital assistant that can help you with prompts of how to use your money better, and also give you some learnings where it comes to finances. It's then with humans where it comes to, say, a coach or a planner to help you with your habits and help build your confidence on getting to those goals. And when then the problem is a little bit harder, um, access to advisors who are then able to help you and do things for you. So whether that be a mortgage advisor who is a specialist in that or an investment advisor. So we want to be that one-stop shop. We want to be kind of something that people have in their pockets that helps them be empowered to look after their finances for their life goals.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is, in terms of us as next gen planners, this it's
Yeah,
a similar goals, isn't it? These
exactly.
what we're trying to put the focus on is it's less about products. It's less about looking at how you kind of maximize gains and looking at, okay, well, what is important to the person? How can we
Yeah,
make people live a life that is valuable, and making sure that they're achieving what they want to achieve, whatever that might be, on a big or small scale. But as you said, often it is dealing, or there's an assumption that the only people who would need a financial planner are people of high net worth, because they have more money to manage. However, that's really not the case, is it?
no.
And so I wondered if you could just speak about kind of some of the challenges in relation to the advice gap at the moment, and why there is, there's so many people who are not able to access that, or why they think that it might not be relevant to them.
Yeah, so I think for me that is me, and that's the background I came from. So I came from a really low income background, didn't know anything about finance, and I've just been really lucky in the industry I've ended up in. I've learned a lot along the way, but that's not the same for everyone. Like, everyone assumes that, oh, actually, say whether it's investing or having a financial advisor is only for the rich, whereas actually the kind of current space we're in, like the landscape at the moment, both between millennials and Gen Z, we're set to inherit 68 trillion by 2030. That's crazy, right? Um,
Yeah, I hadn't heard
as
that figure before. That is an insane amount of money to
Yeah,
kind of
and so
transfer
that
on.
is to all of us, and, that might be in smaller chunks to some of us than others, right?
Sure.
But that is a lot of money, and people need to know what to do with it. And as mentioned, 4 out of 5 people don't get financial advice at the moment, and there are stats that show that actually not getting financial advice means that people are losing out on 47K every 10 years. So there is a kind of gap at the moment with advice where either people don't feel comfortable with the what we call the traditional advisors, and they don't speak to them. They don't do it in a way that speaks to this audience, I would say,
Hmm.
and the younger population, say. But it's also then about whether they don't trust them as well or want to do it themselves. There are many reasons people don't necessarily feel the current, say, going to a wealth advisor or financial advisor is the right approach. But there are ways in between, which is again another thing which I love about next gen planners is it's a different way of looking at it.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess a lot of this comes down to something we talk about often, and it's a lack of kind of financial education, financial
Yeah,
literacy, and
yeah,
the fact that it's not taught in schools. There isn't, you don't get sent off into the world with a real understanding of how to
no.
manage your money, what pitfalls you can kind of fall into. So what do you think we can do to kind of improve that? And where do you see as what do you see perhaps as the main challenges to improving financial literacy and education?
Yeah, so I definitely agree. We don't get taught it in schools. And like, if we really want to deal with the root of the problem, that's where it should be done. Unfortunately, there is a whole multiple generations that haven't got there. And I think the way we can do that is actually by having resources. There is more open conversations. Money was such a taboo to talk about. So people
Mm.
don't talk about it. Even I have friends, even my friends, we don't talk about money as much as we would say relationships or anything else. We'd go into more intimate details about that than we would maybe our
Mm,
money situations. And I think improving financial literacy is actually just being a little bit more open about it. There are more resources, things such as Aila Money, where we're doing our beta tests, like places where you can learn things for free. And it's about actually giving it the priority. I think one of the things that is an issue is the financial literacy, but actually because it's new and because it seems scary and daunting, and also a problem for the future, because a lot of these are your future goals, it's very easy
mm.
for people to be like, oh, I'll deal with it later, or I'll learn it later. And actually, I think the biggest step in improving financial literacy is bringing it into the now and saying, right, how do we help people be confident tackling it small steps from now rather than just thinking, oh, that's a problem for later. And I think that takes a change in behaviors, which is what we're trying to do at Isla Money as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the other problem that comes into play here, as you said, there's a lot of places where you can go to learn things for free, but also there's a lot of kind of misinformation and disinformation out there
Yeah.
where you're not necessarily going to get good quality guidance or advice. So what would you say to people who are kind of seeking to inform themselves and to educate themselves? How can you avoid places that might give you guidance that is not so useful?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think there is always going to be a level of mistrust because people are often trying to sell a product. I think that's one of the key things that we're looking at ILO is like we want to stay independent because hopefully that brings about more trust. It means that we're not trying to push a product as such. And it's kind of going in with your eyes wide open, asking the questions of, right, what am I learning? What are they trying to suggest that we are doing? Is it, hey, I will give you financial freedom if you invest 10K in this program and we will get you there? It's taking that step back, saying, hold on, does this make sense? Is this right for me for right now? There's no issue in spending money, but it's asking the question of, what does this do towards my life goals? Am I confident? Take stock of what you have now before you start looking at any of those learnings. And yeah, I would say,
Yeah.
we are, Isla Money has a beta test that we're running at the moment. We do have information. There is no trying to sell you a product as such on this. So give
Yeah,
us a go.
and absolutely. And as we said, there's a gaping hole, isn't there, for something like Isla, where people are really seeking this guidance and really seeking information. So I think it's great that you're able to kind of build something like that. And the other thing I kind of want to talk about before we move on to looking at kind of the tech side of things, which I know a lot of people are really interested about at the moment. And that's the intention action gap. So,
Yes.
as we're talking now, as this podcast is going out, it is the beginning of a brand new year. And with that brings a lot of resolutions, a lot of good intentions, a lot of, targets and goals to spend or not spend, rather. So, could you perhaps give some good advice about starting good habits or how people can set themselves up for a good, successful year?
Yeah, so I think, at this time of year, especially after probably spending a little bit too much in December, everyone starts looking, right, what do I want to achieve this year? And I would say for everyone, if they could put a goal of thinking about their finances in their New Year's resolutions, that would be great. And like I'd say top type 5 tips of how to actually go about doing that is first take stock of where you are now. Take a moment to look at what do you currently have? What is your current assets? What is your current debt? What is your net wealth? Where are you? Then look at your current budget. Are you happy with your budget? Um, are you happy with how much you're spending? What your outgoings are? actually we have a calculator which we break it down into what your needs and your want expenditure is, so you can actually really start seeing what are you spending money on. And then, as we said, link it to the life goals. And actually what that looks like is take some time to say, what are you wanting your money to do for you? How can you make that money work harder? What are your goals? Because actually having a goal in mind will really help you. And that goal isn't just for this year. It's very easy to make resolutions in January that you forget by March, but actually keeping that in mind of, what am I looking for? Is it a house in 2 years' time? Is it, you know, is it going on holiday, a career break, or starting your own business, and working towards that? And then finally, actually, you know what? It's as simple as just setting aside, even if it's an hour, whether that's a week or a month, now, and putting it in your diary for the rest of the year. I think that's the great place to start, because it's so easy, as we said, with the intention action gap, for everyone knows that they want to be better at their finances, but it's so hard to do, because life just gets in the way. So actually, if I'd say one thing, let's put in an hour, and you choose whether that's weekly, fortnightly, or monthly, to spend some time working on your finances.
Definitely. And I guess that it makes it a lot more manageable then, doesn't it? It can be
Yeah.
very overwhelming and daunting to suddenly see this long stretch of time or short stretch of time, and it's not long enough, or it's too much, and it feels like a big kind of challenge to put on yourself. But like you said, if you can break it down into those steps, I think that's really great advice, really useful to be able to put it into bite-sized chunks.
Yeah, I think that's only
you to
4,
deal
so
with.
I'd say the 5th was actually just get started. Even a small bit is making a difference.
Absolutely. Amazing. Okay, so moving on to kind of fintech then. And the world of fintech is rapidly evolving, changing. I think it's one of the most exciting kind of areas of tech. Well, in my opinion, I would be biased, but
No,
I
I
think
would
it's
agree.
yeah, it's incredibly exciting, the things that are coming out, and how conference to conference, or even conversation to conversation, the things that can change. And you're kind of at the heart of it, with building Aila Money and launching this. So as a fintech company, how do you kind of leverage technology to kind of get the best financial guidance and the best product that you can make to put out there?
Yep. So for us, technology is such a key part of this, because what we want to do at Isla is make it personalized. So the way we go about doing this is actually, when we have an app version, granted we're on the beta version, we want to pull in all of your accounts into our app, so we can use your data to personalize our financial assistance prompts to you. So actually, that's the first use of technology. The open banking data which is out there, which allows you to do this, which will allow us to actually make this more personalized. It's knowing, actually, you've set your budget at X amount for this period. However, actually, the last 2 months you've gone over, and this information is coming into the app straight away. So we could tell you almost straight away. So, if it's Starbucks that we see on your account, it's like, hey, your Starbucks limit for this week was £5. It's now, you've now spent 10. This is what impact it is going to have on your life goal by going over it, kind of thing. So it provides us that information to be able to be really personalized. Also, another big issue that we think of is the intention action gap, and actually having this financial information here and being able to transact it makes it really kind of quick and simple for people to do. And then OpenAI, or AI, we can't forget about that as well. This makes it
Absolutely.
actually really a lot easier to be able to provide that guidance, because you can have a library of things which you can teach your AI world, and kind of have those prompts very personalized based on the information, and have it safe and secure in your kind of space as well.
Yeah, definitely. And it is so exciting that the possibilities are now so much more than they ever were. And a part of that comes back to feeding into what we were talking earlier about making this kind of financial advice or financial guidance more accessible, because obviously traditionally it is expensive to have an individual manage your money, and to make that worthwhile for one person to do all of that, obviously they want to make it worth their while. However, if you can service multiple people not on a one-to-one basis, but by creating something which can then go out and act as a one-to-one service, be very personalized, but not have somebody who's having to do all the individual work, it means that we can really open this up to more people. So is that how Aila came about in the first place, looking at the tech that was available and how you can leverage that to make it and make it more accessible? Is that was your
so
intention?
I think it came about from two different approaches. So one was actually that financial advisors didn't want to deal with people under a certain amount of wealth. So that always irks me. That I don't think that's fair, because actually their advice helps you build your wealth, but they won't look at you until you've got a certain amount of cash. And actually it is even proven that say you don't even a small amount, you will make more money off that kind of thing. So it's not just the wealthier that can get wealthy. Actually, it works for everyone regardless of their income levels. So I definitely agree with that. So I think it brings down the cost of entry, so hopefully advisors can look at things at an easier level. And like you said, we want it to be accessible, and actually for the client themselves, the way it's most accessible is if it's personalized. Some of the thing about the financial guidance or learnings is actually, how does that translate to me? Is this relevant to me? Is a question a lot of people have. Now, if it's done using your account information, then it's like, hey, I can see you have X in your current account. This is at a lower interest rate. Do you want to see the options of other things you could use that maybe makes your money work for you more? That is then very specific, say, to you and your account. And actually, hopefully that makes people a little bit more confident with it, because then I actually know this is based on my information, or I don't, or the learning is linked to the information available as well. So I think that was really a big part of it for us, like making sure it was accessible to all and actually linked, so that the personalized approach helped make sure people were confident with it.
Definitely.
But I do agree, like I'm really hoping that actually with this whether it's open banking, open finance, or AI as well, that this means that there is more information out there for people, and at a lower cost as well.
For sure. And as you said, there's ways that if you have a small amount of money, it doesn't necessarily mean that it stays that way forever. And if you're smart about it, and if you're making sensible, informed decisions, the way that can then move can open up so many doors for you, which is really exciting and empowering, hopefully, in the future.
The power of compounding.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you mentioned AI there, and obviously we can barely have any conversation, I think, at all at the moment in the world of financial planning or finance generally without something about AI popping up, because it's on everybody's lips. It's such a buzzword. And so I was wondering, what are your thoughts about AI in the context of financial guidance, and what kind of, we've talked about a lot of the benefits. What do you see as perhaps some of the potential problems that we could encounter as well?
So yeah, there are benefits, but the problems are obviously you still need someone to be able to program in all of the guidance changes. Like, how do we make sure that the AI libraries are kept up to date? You don't necessarily want it on the whole, like, open AI, because that's not safe. So you need to have a specific library you're working on, and then making sure that is still up to date with the information. If it is in an open AI space, then there, like you said, there is misinformation that can then be pulled into AI. So I think there has to always be a level of review of this. The other thing as we go on more and more is it becomes, I think, as AI is going on, people are getting more apprehensive about it as well. So there is that, okay, yes, it can be personalized, but I think people then still want some of the human approach to it as well. So I wouldn't say it's necessarily a problem, but it's one that we're considering, which is why the human coaches, I think, are still very important.
Definitely. And so widening that question then and moving away from specifically AI and just looking at the age of fintech in general, with
Yeah.
all of these new whatever it is, software or just I mean, there's so much, isn't there, coming out. In the age of fintech, how do you see the role of financial planners evolving, and how do you see something like Isla kind of fitting in to a financial planner's services? How can they leverage that?
Yep. So I think the role of a financial planner in this world of fintech is actually just going to get more and more interesting, because actually what it should do is reduce the barriers of entry. So at the moment, whether you're a financial planner or financial advisor, to get information from your client is either you're emailing them asking them for their information on a spreadsheet, or you're asking them for access to their accounts, some of which at the moment is still being done by you sign a piece of paper to say, yes, you have access to my account. That provider then sends the financial planner the information, which there is a lag. Like we've already got open banking, but with open finance, that will mean that you have access to everything. So your investment accounts as well as your bank accounts, etc. So that means that the planner's role of actually gathering information, which takes a lot of time, can be done very quickly. And then they can really add value, and they can help their clients stick to their plans a lot quicker. Like I said, if the client then gives them access to see their alerts on their spending, however frequently, you're having more of an honest conversation with your client, and actually then getting really into the crux of what are the issues that are causing some of the kind of reasons why someone can't then stick to their financial plans, or actually really addressing the underlying issues on this, as well as celebrating the successes when people do. So, and where I think Isla fits in is, we are very much looking at, can we provide that white label solution for financial planners so they are able to use our infrastructure to be able to reach out to their clients on this basis using our technology to do so. So they are that personalized voice for this.
Yeah, definitely. It sounds good, doesn't it? I think it's going to be a good future. And like you said, I know a lot of people are apprehensive about what this new wave of fintech might do and how it will change the jobs. But ultimately, it means hopefully you just have more time on the human side of financial planning and connecting with your client and understanding what they want and how you can help them achieve their goals. So ultimately, I think it's in my opinion, it's a win-win.
Yes, I would
Yeah,
agree.
definitely. So last kind of fintech question then,
Yeah.
and that is, there's so much happening, as we've mentioned. There's so much. There's so many trends and new technologies. What is there anything that you find particularly exciting? Is there any new trend that has caught your eye that you've kind of looking at where it might go in the future and how it could change, financial guidance or education or any of that kind of stuff?
So I am, I think, like everyone, looking at where AI is going and
Mhm.
what the guidance is going to be around how that gets used in finance. So that is a key one. But the other one I've been eagerly watching for quite some time, as I'm sure a lot of people, or a lot of financial planners are, is open banking. That feels like that is going to make a real big step towards working out people's full picture of where people are. in the way open banking has already started. So those are the two that I'm most kind of eagerly awaiting. Partly just because it will help the accessibility for a lot of people, um, help with the education piece, but also the intention action gap is smaller if you've got all the information readily available rather than waiting for information to kind of come through.
Definitely. I think it's going to be good. I'm really excited about AI and chatbots, especially. I think how they're evolving is really, really interesting. I'm keeping my eyes open for how sophisticated they can get. So looking to the future then for Isla specifically, what is your goal? What is the aim? What's the ideal outcome kind of projecting forwards? What do you want to happen?
So our aim is like we want everyone to be able to meet their life goals and have the finances in order to do so. And that's by giving everyone the confidence around their finances to be able to action their money and make their money work for them. What does that look like for us? That's hopefully, we're currently on a beta version, which everyone is welcome to try. Which isn't as sophisticated. It doesn't pull in your data, but we would love to have this app up and running where, you know, everyone is able to use it. They all have access to the prompts, where they then have an access to a human coach and a financial planner who can help them on this journey, as well as access to advisors should they want as well. And really, we want I think it is starting to happen, and we want that change where in the next kind of while, people are just empowered to think of their finances rather than be scared of them.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's a great idea, a brilliant software so far. I've had it go on the beta version myself, and yeah, it's really cool. All the things that it's already offering. So I hope even even more sophisticated down the line, I'm sure will be even better than it already is. But final two questions then that we like to ask every podcast guest who comes on. And the first of that is about a book. So I'd love if you have for me a book that has helped you in your career so far. Could you share that with us?
Yep, it's Fearless by Ariana Huffington. I think I think everyone knows that there is potentially differences in the way females are in a workplace, but I think her book really rang true to me as to actually maybe some of the ways that I behave in the office or how things are different. And it really made me look inward and really rang true to me, I would say.
Definitely. I mean, it sounds like a great book. And I guess that's another thing to kind of pick up on is, as a woman in finance and tech, you're kind of, you look around and there's not very many other women who are there alongside you. How have you found navigating that journey in, a very male dominated, two very male dominated professions?
Yeah, I think someone asked me this on an interview yesterday, a junior who I was interviewing, and I was like, actually, I'm now confident to admit that I've always had a level of imposter syndrome, and what that's meant is I probably worked a lot harder than I should have done otherwise, put in 120% each time rather than just 100, and not asked. I was always scared to ask. I just assumed that my hard work would be recognized. And that has been a learning that actually I would love for that to have been different for me, but I would advise others to be like, actually, no, just ask for what you deserve. Or, there's no harm in asking. All that anyone can say is no. And it has been hard, but it's also been fun. It comes with its challenges. But I think
And also, yeah, and also advantages. I think that's
oh,
something to
definitely.
say as well. If you find yourself in a profession where there's not that many people who are quite like you, you're going to be able to think in a different way. You're going to be
It's exactly
offering
that.
things that
Yeah.
that a lot of other people won't necessarily think is right or correct, and you can swoop in and
Yeah.
be like, well, I think
And
this.
you are very much recognized for that at times, for your different ways of thinking. You just have to be confident enough to find your voice. And when you do, it is, you will get recognized for it. And you
Definitely.
will,
Yeah, and
yeah.
hopefully it's changing as well. Looking forward, and that's another conversation we have a lot of making
Yeah.
this profession a bit more diverse in every way, because we all know the traditional stereotype of perhaps people in finance, and it not that
And it
that's
really is.
yeah, and it would be, we're not saying no one should be an older white man. It would just be good if there were other people in
Yeah.
the
There
club
is room
too.
for everyone. And, I don't want to be that person that, saying they shouldn't be there, because they've done a really good job. It's just actually, do they cater for everyone? Do they relate to everyone in the same way? And you're right, the industry is changing. So, it is becoming a lot more diverse. In every firm I've worked at, I've seen the number of women go up during my tenure at each of them, which has been really nice to see. And diversity in general is now very much not just something people are doing as a box ticking exercise. People are now starting to see the impact and the value it's adding across businesses.
Absolutely, for sure. Okay, so last question then, for you today. And I mean, we've kind of talked about the future and things already. And so perhaps you might just be reconfirming some of the things we've already said. But the last question we like to ask everybody is, what are you most excited to see in the world of finance in the next 10 years?
Yep. So for, like, as I mentioned, there is a huge wealth transfer. And what does that look like with the kind of coming about of technology? If you think about, like, banking data, fintech hasn't actually been around a lot. I think there's so much we could achieve in 10 years, that really helps empower everyone, and helps everyone make their money work for them. And actually, that's what I'm most excited about. I think it will be easier. I think our biggest barriers of entry are people not knowing where they can go to, having the information, and the intention action gap. And I think technology is only going to help that.
Absolutely. Well, on that note, I will say thank you very much, Nitika, for joining me. It's been a pleasure talking to
Thank
you, and I'm
you.
really excited to see everything you're going to do with Aila.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So that was Nitika Vyas on the Next Gen Planners podcast. If you enjoyed this podcast, you can find this episode along with all our other previous episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and on our website, which is www.nextgenplanners.co.uk. There you can find loads more information about our brilliant community. And finally, if you can, do leave us a review. It really helps us to grow the podcast. Thank you very much.